Foundation of Hattiesburg Board for their vital leadership gift of $4 million. Their mission of strengthening education and health is apparent in this facility and the future of nursing education at Southern Miss. With respect and gratitude to each member of the Board of Directors of the Asbury Foundation of Hattiesburg, on this day, March 3rd, 2017, under the authority of the Board of Trustees, State Institutions of Higher Learning, and the President of the University of Southern Mississippi, Dr. Rodney Bennett, we formally dedicate Asbury Halls honoring the Asbury Foundation of Hattiesburg. In the words of former Alumni Association Executive Director Powell Ogletree, it's great to be a Golden Eagle. Thank you for being with us and participating in this momentous occasion. Now please welcome the President of the Asbury Foundation of Hattiesburg, Mr. William Ray.
Well, I'm not a professor, I'm not a politician, and I don't have this great building to come to work in every day. I remember, and I'm old enough, and I see a lot of gray hair in here too, to remember back in 1967 when the first nursing school was announced and became a reality on the coast. I considered it on the coast because I was in Clarksdale. Had a real good friend that called, Larry Woodall, and he said, we were talking about Hospital Association affairs, and he said, at the end of the conversation, he said, oh, by the way, Bill, we got a nursing school out of Southern. And I said, well, I'm not real happy about that, Lowry. I said, you know, you were in Baptist, you had Guilford right down the hall, you had the medical center, and I said, I'm up here in Clarksdale sucking air. The best I can do is maybe get one from UT out of Memphis and surviving off of LPN school. And he said, well, that's tough. We got one starting, and that's the way it is. So then I thought, what I need to do is work real hard and move to Hattiesburg. So I did. And it was great to be here. And it's great to see such a great facility. One thing that we were talking about earlier with somebody is how long it takes to do something. And I remember back in 2002, Dr. Shelby Timms called me, and as I've always found out, college presidents never have any money. I mean, they always want something. And so Shelby calls and he said, let's talk about a nursing school. And I said, well, okay, Shelby. So we talked for a long time and on many, many occasions, and at that particular time, the development did not work out. Time went by, and then Martha called me and said, let's talk again. This was in 2011. And I began to think, let's see now, when I first talked about the medical school, and I think the students are in another area watching on the screen, that would have been in 2002. So most of you were born in either 97 or 98, so you were 4 to 6 years old. And I'm sure you were looking around saying, what's taking them so long? I'm going to nursing school, and here you are not doing anything. So Martha and I talked, and also Bob was in my office every day crying. We'd have to mop up after he left. And we made a commitment in 2011 to participate in this great facility. And then, as Tate and I were talking, it seems like yesterday we turned the shovel, but it's been several years for this magnificent building to be here. And I was just thinking, you know, I spent 40-something years running hospitals and working with nurses. And I thought, you know, nurses are different people. Their gene pool's different. They're called to be a nurse. They don't just kind of go in other professions like some of us do. They're actually called to be nurses. And one day we were having a staff meeting. And you know, in staff meetings, we had 25, 26 people in the room, and everybody's talking about, well, you know, the staffing pattern, the equipment we need more money in the salaries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And about an hour or so had gone by. And she's going to kill me. One of my employees, Doris Miller, who was the director of nurses, she's sitting right over there and has a scholarship named after her here at USM. And she said, I think we need to talk about the patient. We talked about everybody but the patient. And I thought, yep, that's what we need to talk about. So I said, well, if you stop and think about it, those nurses that work 11 to 7, 3 to 5, 4 to 2, whatever shift they had, and then their families at home, they're there taking care of the patient. And I thought about the patient in the bed. And the patient looks up, and the doctor, James, comes roaring in at 6:30 because he's going to surgery. And he needs to get by there and get to surgery. And so she looks up, he mumbles a few words that nobody understands because the words are this long, and leaves. The nurse comes in the room. She says, what did he say? What does he mean? How am I doing? So the nurse explains all that. Fluffs her pillow, gives her some water, comforts her, takes care of the family, leaves. A little while, door knock again. In comes somebody from the lab with their little tray. And the patient shudders because you know what they want is 10 gallons of blood. And they get it. Before they leave, they get it. So in comes the nurse again. And the nurse says, everything okay? Comforts her, stops the bleeding, and then takes care of those things like IVs, etc., and all the technical things you're going to learn here. But most of all, it brings comfort. Then the knock on the door comes again, and it's the dietitian. And she walks in and said, you know, want to serve lunch? She said, what would you like? She said, well, what do you have to offer? She said, well, today we're having sirloin steak and lobster. And she said, you can either have one or both. She said, I'll take both. And out she goes. The nurse comes in again and says, you're really not going to get steak and lobster. You're going to get dried up potatoes and some of those little ball-bearing peas. And so she smooths that deal over. Really, you're laughing because you've been there. And the nurse then takes care of the family who's distressed over the patient. And it goes on. The nurse is there constantly. The nurse is there when we birth them. They weigh a pound and they're in neonatal. You're there at the hospice at the end of life. Nurses have a compassion unlike anyone else. And this building, in my opinion, is going to do nothing but enhance that as the young people come through here and learn all of the technical skills that they need. But what they really need and why they're going to be nurses is because they have a compassion for the patient. Best wishes to all of you. Thank you.